Veterans Day. Let's honor our vets, military personnel, and those who sacrificed everything. Hi, I'm Jason.
And I'm Greg.
We are GenX, and welcome to our podcast. Hey guys, thank you once again for tuning in and checking us out each and every week. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you to our subscribers. Thank you to our audio-only listeners over there on podbean.com, link in the description. And thank you and a big shout out to our Monday crew. We have a loyal following, a little family over there that check us out every Monday morning. We drop our new episodes Sunday night, and we do have a faithful Monday crew that love to jump on and catch us in the very beginning. So thank you guys for all that. Thank you to all of our subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed already, hit that little button down over here in the little corner and then subscribe. Leave us a like, leave us a comment if you like us, or anything you have to say. We're still pretty small, so I do respond to all the comments. You can talk to YouTubers. I think it was
famous
pretty
YouTuber.
Cool. Yeah, we're famous. We're internationals. I want to give a shout out to Marty, who's joining us this week. You guys clicked on the title. And Veterans Day, let's honor all of our vets today. A big shout out to everyone in our armed forces. And, we're going to have a little history on it. We're going to talk about all the good stuff about it. But first of all, Marty, thank you for joining us, my friend. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Greg?
Hey.
Appreciate you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's get into this. Veterans Day. Let's honor our vets, military personnel. But first and foremost, Greg, tell us something good.
Free stuff.
I like free stuff.
I never went out on Veterans Day and got a free meal before. Never since I got out of the Marine Corps have I ever done that one time.
Really?
Me neither.
I did it. I finally did it this year.
Did you have a schedule, like from 6 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night?
Every meal. Ate more than I would usually eat because I don't usually eat more than once or twice a day. But we went to Denny's for breakfast.
Right.
Horrible. It's freezing
Slam?
cold inside. Yeah,
Oof.
the free Grand Slam came cold. The coffee was cold.
Oof.
It was cold in the restaurant.
Oof.
It was bad. $5 tip.
That's what happens when you get free stuff.
Free meal, $5. But you had to tip. I spent $100 tipping kids that day, so it's not like I didn't go for the free meal. Whoever serves the meal gets the price of the meal if they do good, but Denny's was bad. Then went to, came home, hung out for a little while, went to, what's the burger joint? Red Robin.
Oh, very
for
cool.
the free tavern burger.
Yeah.
It's all right. Not too bad. Bottomless fries. Service wasn't that good.
Yeah.
$10 tip.
Okay.
Not bad. Then we came home for a little while, went to dinner, picked Chili's.
Okay.
Got another burger. Chili's was great. Yep. The burger.
$30 tip.
Burger at Chili's killed the burger at the burger place.
Right.
So, very good. Then the Chili's by the mall is right across the parking lot from that BJ's Brew House, and you can go there for a free dessert. You get a Pizookie.
Oh, those are good.
Fresh baked cookie with the ice cream on top.
Yeah, those are really,
Love
really
it.
good.
Did you have to show like ID or anything?
Never once the whole day.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
They just believed you?
Got dessert. Yeah. So Chili's got $25 tip. Dessert got a $30 tip. It was just like whatever was the rest of the $100 bill. Got the rest of it. So.
Well,
Yeah,
you're good.
spent $100 tipping some people for some service and having some free meals that day. And my son's a veteran too, so I had someone to cruise with the whole day.
So we got a Marine, we have an Army soldier, and Veterans Day was originally called Armistice Day, and was created to honor our fallen military. Over time, this holiday has grown to honor not only those who have sacrificed everything, but to include all personnel, people, for their commitment to our national freedom. There are some more details around this holiday. What was the origin, or how did this originate?
Well, originally in 1938, they had this day that honored the vets, and they thought it was going to be the last. They call it the end of the war to end all wars, and obviously it didn't. So then in 1954, Dwight D. Eisenhower renamed it Veterans Day, and then that's November 11th was Veterans Day. So they thought they had it, and they're like, we're never going to have a war again.
The armistice means truce. I just had to look it up.
Yeah.
So when we broke the truce, we had a false day we had to make up for.
We had to
rebrand that.
But the crazy part of that too is in the First World War, there was people that fought when they were young in the Civil War that actually fought in World War I.
That's crazy.
So that's kind of like some of the guys that fought in World War II, or they jumped in. They jumped in and they World War I fought in World War II, and then the older part of their military career they fought in Vietnam.
Korea.
I'm sorry, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Those three. Yeah. I had one of those encounters with an older gentleman when I won Soldier of the Year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of Soldier of the Year, that's a pretty good segue right there. So one of the great things about having, our podcast here is we can do anything and have anybody we want. And today, like we said earlier, we do have Marines and we do have Army, but we have Army Soldier of the Year 1992?
Correct.
1992 for the Southern Command.
Correct.
Explain the Southern Command. How does one win Soldier of the Year?
What is the Southern Hemisphere?
The bottom half of the planet.
Yeah.
Is that what
he
it
was
is?
the best soldier on the bottom half of the planet.
There's different theaters, and so I was in the Southern Theater.
Right.
So when I got in after basic training, went to AIT in Fort Gordon, Georgia, and they're like, these people are going to Alaska, these people are going to Korea, these people are going to the States, and everybody's like, I don't want to go to Panama. I'm like, I don't want to go to Panama either. Well, guess what? I got orders to go to Panama.
I'm going to Panama.
So at that time, I was married. I had
How come nobody wanted to go? Why would anybody even
why
know
do they
that?
not like Panama?
I would only knew it from the Van Halen song. So why would I know anything else about Panama back
there's
then?
Well, when you go to Europe, like you go to Germany, you can travel all over Europe. Nobody travels all over South America.
Nah, you'll
bugs
get
and
You
shit.
could.
eaten by an anaconda.
Yeah, it just wasn't a very prominent place to go to. Yeah, because we had Howard Air Force Base, Rodman Naval Station, and then Fort Clayton, Panama, and then Fort Davis on the Atlantic side.
And then they don't have much of a system. It's not like trains and buses and stuff for getting around.
We had the Panama Canal and canoes.
Yeah.
That's it. So,
like that canoe with the motor on the back?
no. Cayuca. It's
Sampan?
like you paddle. I mean, they do have boats. They do have boats. They do have some really good fishing in Panama. I give you that, and surfing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and scuba diving. But no, the Soldier of the Year kind of came about when I was assigned to a 92nd MP unit, and I was a satellite communication specialist, and so I was a support MOS. Basically, they called us low density MOSs, so which kind of irritated me because I didn't like being called low density.
Right.
So they had a soldier of the month, and so they had to pick somebody, and I drew the short straw. So I went and did it and did well, and then we did a platoon, company, we did the battalion, and we started working our way up. Well, in 91, the person that was supposed to go to Soldier of the Year out of our brigade got hurt halfway through, so they threw me in there. And I didn't do well because I wasn't prepared. So I said the next year I'm going to do this from the get-go.
Right.
And yeah, so for like 7 months, training, preparing, getting ready for it.
So we're working out, we're eating the right food, we're running.
Yeah.
So it's everything is like PT and knowledge and all the things.
Yeah, it's PT. I mean, it's PT. It's military history. It's your basic stuff like marksman and hazmat, and we went through this 12-mile
Typing. Was there typing?
No typing. Thank goodness. No, thank
And
goodness.
60 words per minute.
No. That was S4. That was the admin people. No. And I was just like in high school. I wasn't the fastest person. I wasn't the strongest person. Wasn't the smartest person. I was just the most consistent person.
Right.
So the one thing that helped me with my PT score, I got 300 points out of 300 points. That's what helped me project myself into the top 3 at the time. And then went into the last oral interview with the command sergeant major and 3 other sergeant majors, and I think that's what sealed the deal for it.
You showed up with a 6-pack.
No,
Like, what's up, fellas?
Actually, it was a lot of research. I had to find out what these command sergeant majors, what their typical questions were. I figure out what was their hang up and what their signature question was going to be, and I just studied. I walked around with a satchel, little military green satchel that had all my books in there, and I was just paid to study, shoot, move, and communicate. That's what we did. That's what I did.
So once you decide you're going to do that, they just pull you off your normal job?
Yeah, they pulled me off my normal job, and I basically was the battalion's golden boy.
Candidate.
Yeah,
you're like the candidate for the,
Yeah, any cool events that went on, I always got to go. Because if I got to go, then my company commander got to go, and my company first sergeant got to go, and then they basically rode my coattails to all these other cool functions.
Right.
Yeah.
So you perform in all these events, all the ones that you named, right? And you outscore and outperform everybody else. So at every level, and then this progresses until there's one big final competition.
Yeah.
And then where and how and who shows up to that final competition, and kind of how does that look? What goes down?
Dragon Sport.
Blood
It's
sport?
like one of those Bloodsport. Isn't it like a Van Damme movie?
Yeah. It's kind of like that. I mean, there's 6 different brigade or divisions that were there, and so you had like the infantry, you had the artillery, you had signal, you had all these, and I represented the MP battalion, and so we had all the competitions. We were all rotating around and sizing each other up. And like I said, I was not the fastest or the strongest or the biggest. I was just very consistent. And the one thing that I knew I could get everybody in was the interview. So I really, really focused on trying to present myself with knowledge of the military.
Okay.
So like, what was General Patton's dog's name? You know, what kind of weapon did he have? You know, all these different weird stuff like Ulysses.
That they might ask. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so I don't remember all the answers today, but you know,
no, useless knowledge.
It's useless, but it came in handy for sure. For sure.
We've had you on the show before, and in one of the stories, it kind of comes full circle, or the end of the road. I want to say that there was a lot of preparation into how you walked up to this you described a big giant door with this brass knocker on it or something.
No, it was the final interview.
Tell me.
And so I'm sitting outside the post headquarters, and they had the big conference room with the big like 8-foot wooden doors that they made out of this Panamanian wood. And so it's like having King Kong doors. And so I just remember being told, when you enter into the room, knock on the door like you mean it, because that's what's going to set the tone for your interview. So when I walked up there, I pounded on that door like it was my life depended on it. And they asked me to walk in, and the command sergeant major said, "Dang, son, thought King Kong was out there the way you knocked on that door." And that's kind of like helped me relax through the interview.
Right.
So yeah,
A little icebreaker.
it was an icebreaker, yeah, for sure. And then, you know, through the interviews, they asked all the questions, and it came to this one sergeant major, and he said, "So I see you're a signal guy and you work for the MPs. Are you good at what you do?" I said, "I'm the best." He goes, "I'm done." The only question I have.
Absolutely, sir. I'm the best there is.
So that was it for him.
Best there ever was.
Yeah. Not to be. I wasn't trying to be. You know, I don't know. I was very confident.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be arrogant by any means. I was just very confident.
Yeah.
So that was it.
So the final interview, and so multiple people make it to this stage, right? Multiple people make to the final interview.
They have different. All the theaters have their own, and then we go to Washington D.C. for this big elaborate ceremony, and they have all these. It's like kind of like this. Convention where people are trying to sell military goods, and then, you know, I ran into Arnold Schwarzenegger. He was selling Humvees. I think it was like the second version of the Humvee going into the military. Schwarzkopf, Colin Powell, all those President Bush,
old school names.
Yeah. He was going out. Bill Clinton was coming in, so he had his last hurrah. So it was pretty interesting. Got to go to everything in Washington, D.C., and the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Got to go inside the tomb where they prepared and got ready and everything. And it's like, man, these guys, it's unreal what these guys have to go through to perform. Unreal.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
F that job.
Yeah. The old guard is not for this guy. Well, first off, I'm too short. You'd be able to do it, but not me.
No thanks. No thanks. I did enough guard duty in Japan. 27-inch
waist, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I had fun. It was a really good year. My family also benefited from it too, because we got some cool stuff, some prizes. And
yeah, that's right, some prizes.
They sent us. Yeah, they got a car, furniture, not like a whole car, but they helped us get into a car. We went to open up the Fields of Greens in Orlando, Florida, for the Army Air Force, and got to go to Disneyland, stuff like that. So it was good for the first year. You know, got to go to the embassy.
Go everywhere in uniform.
Yeah, my class, dress blues and mess whites. Yeah.
Yeah.
Top of the food chain for a year, and then the year comes to an end, and then obviously they've been preparing for the next winter for his glory run, right, for his victory lap, right?
You can't do it 2 years in a row. You can't be like, hey, I'm spending the next 7 months. I'm gonna no. That's it. Once you're in, you're out.
I think most people, because you're only there for 2-year tour if you're company or 1 year by single. So I was on my way out anyway. So it was kind of one of those things where unless I extended my tour, which I wasn't going to.
Which I wasn't going to.
Or go try to do it in your new place.
Yeah.
Could you do it again if you got to your new unit and then try and...
Yeah, I could have.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't want to, though.
Right. I think that was enough.
It was enough. I got it. I did it once. It was good enough.
I remember
shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah.
I remember being back in Ripon and hearing that story. I'm like, I had no idea that even existed. And I remember just being kind of like, wow, that's kind of cool. I've never even, you know what I mean? I never even knew that was a thing. You could win Soldier of the Year. I'm like, hey, I heard Marty won Soldier of the Year.
Did we ever look up for the magazine cover?
So who?
Magazine cover.
Time? I think it was Time.
No. No. There's no covers. Maybe the
military magazine.
Oh, with the Mad magazine, with his face on it.
What was the the magazine we used to get in the military? Military, like for enlisted.
The AFIS, not the AFIS.
It was something silly. I think we had to voluntarily subscribe to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do. I think I do remember that.
Soldier of the Year. Let's see if we can find something here. 1992, right?
Yeah. I doubt you'll find anything.
What the hell was that?
You haven't looked for it yet?
I tried. Back in those days, a lot of the photography that was taken was only for the Army and the Air Force usage. We didn't have cell phones. We had those little.
You really wouldn't have access to the picture after it was developed anyway, and it wasn't going to be.
I have some, like when I actually won the award, I had General Wilson pin me, give me the award, but I have some of those photos because they gave them to me, but we had those cardboard boxes. We didn't really have any, like, to actually tell people, hey, this is what I did. They have to just believe me.
Yeah, they got to believe me.
And some of the pictures were sent to the Ripon Record, so they got a copy of it. The LSB got.
That's how we all heard about it.
Yeah,
that's our moms read it in the Ripon Record.
Like on Wednesday, the only day that the paper came out. Every Wednesday it came out. Yeah,
it's hard to find anything because Universal Soldier came out in 1992, and it's all about Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren.
There,
playing. You should be right up there with them.
Close, very close. Yeah.
Southern Command Army Soldier of the Year. You spend a year doing like you said, shaking hands and kissing babies. You do the tour, you do your victory lap, which is still pretty cool, right? Yeah. And that was when that ended. That was the end of your career. Your time was up, or you had a little bit after that.
I had a little bit. I mean, there were some perks to it too because at that time, your career, either you were just going to do your 4 in and out or you're going to extend. And at that time I was thinking, man, this is a good opportunity for me to be able to advance my career. So I was trying to do anything and everything I could to do that.
Right.
The only bad thing was I always became somebody's driver, which I didn't like.
Right.
Because I had the connections and I still had some clout and I still got to do some things. So they wanted to go do that with me. So I was always driving somebody around and I'm like, how do I get out of this driving job? So they're like, oh, the Southern Command All Army Shooting Team. That's what I want to do. So I went on the All Army Shooting Team for Southern Command and did that for like 4 months. Went out to the Empire Range and this is where I was like, man, I should have became a Marine. Because they would road march out to the range and we got to drive in Humvees. And one day I'm like, you know what, screw this. I'm going to get out and I'm going to ruck in with them. It's like 5 miles maybe. They did it every day, 5 in and 5 out. So I got out and I'm like, hey, do you think I can ruck in with you guys? They're like, no. I'm like, oh, okay.
Get back in your vehicle, Army guy.
So,
get back in your vehicle.
Like a couple more days go by and I'm like, hey, do you think I can ruck in with you guys? No. A couple of days went by and I was like, hey, do you think I could ruck in with you guys? And the one gunny sergeant said, you can, but you got to ruck in behind us. So I did. Yeah. And I just would ruck in with them.
Were they singing songs?
Yeah. They can sing.
Yeah.
Their cadences were way better than ours. And yeah, I can't.
That's the only thing that makes that stuff bearable.
Well, that's the reason why we sing cadence.
Yeah.
To for one,
give you something to think about.
Something to think about. Be able to get your rhythm and your the respiration and everything to endure all that. So
make sure you're breathing.
No, so I had fun. So I had a lot of respect for the Marines. They do a lot with less, and they go further than anybody else. So that was plus they went. When I tried to go back in after 9/11, I went to the Marine recruiter, and they just said, "Sorry, we don't take anybody but us. If you were in the Navy, we'd have taken you, but we don't want anybody else but us. So sorry, you're tainted." Is what he said.
Yeah. We don't want anybody else but us. So then that's the end of the military career then, right?
I left Panama, we came back to the States, went to the 2nd Ranger Battalion at Fort Lewis, became this satellite communication and a forward observer for them. I was an untabbed Ranger, and did that for about a year and a half. And then at that time I was like, too many things were going on, and it was hard on the family because I had a young daughter at the time. So I'm like, yeah, I grew up in Ripon. I went to school with my classmates from kindergarten all the way through high school. I want to give that to her if I can. So, right. Our friend Rob was going through a fire academy. I came home on leave and I went and hung out with him. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a firefighter. So I was like, I'm going to get out and get into the firefighter gig.
There's a few dudes from our class that were doing it pretty early. Like Greg was doing it too, right?
Greg went in, and Garrett, he did, and they became paramedics.
Yeah.
And Rob worked. He was a volunteer and worked for AMR as an EMT, and he went off in another direction. But I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I like it. A lot of teamwork, a lot of cohesion. That's what helped me transition into the fire service was all my military experience.
Oh, yeah.
And our way of life and our thought process.
So you're back in civilian life. Now you're back at firefighter. Are you firefighting in your hometown, the same town you grew up in? Now you're here to protect and serve those guys?
Yeah, I came back, and it took about 6 months to get in as a volunteer because we had a ton of volunteers in Ripon at that time. And so I was, as I was, trying to get a job, trying to get out of the military and transition into civilian life, and everything that I learned in the military, they said was going to transfer over. Not necessarily.
No, none of it.
So I did.
No.
I had, a wife and a kid, trying to find my own place to live. And I took on some jobs that I probably would never thought of doing. But
right.
I got to take care of the family. And so that happened. I volunteered for 6 years, and then 2001 came, September 11th. And I was like, I'm going to go back in the military. And so I was going through the process, and then I got the call from Ripon Fire and said, hey, you want a full-time job? And I was like, oh, now what am I going to do? So I called some buddies back at Fort Campbell, and I'm like, hey, this is the opportunity I have. And I'm like, take it. Don't come back in. We got this. Go do your thing.
We got this.
Yeah, that's basically what they said. So I took the job and never looked back.
Does volunteer mean literally volunteer? You're not getting paid at anything?
At that time, we didn't get paid.
Part-time. It's
Nope.
not like they call it volunteer because it used to be, and like an intern. You can't really have an intern for free anymore. You have to pay interns.
Now you do. Back then, the laws were different. In 1996, it was different. So we didn't. We were volunteers, and then we transitioned into like a paid per call, part time, and then. But now, you can't give anything away for free. Even if you want to, you can't.
Right. I can't just go show up volunteer at my fire department.
You could, but they have restrictions on how many people they can have because everything has a cost now. The cost value is what really is taking away anything volunteer.
Yeah.
For anything. So so I volunteered for 6 years and then got in and worked full time. Well, full time, I worked a 12-hour shift. I worked from 6 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock at night, and I worked on the ambulance. And then I did that for a couple years, and then we started transitioning from off the ambulance, and then we started getting more full-time people in Ripon and then on the engine and doing both back and forth. So that's what I did for 20 years there.
So you volunteer, but you have shifts, like show up for a shift and volunteer and don't get paid.
Yeah. Or we just came from home. There's many times where we had a pager. It was like, looked like the size of this on your belt, and then when that thing went off, you came to the station.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Because there was Like if the fire, I don't know, did it make a noise or something, and everyone would
wasn't
hop in
there
their
a
trucks,
siren
and
back
all
in the
those
day?
guys would just go show up at the fire department.
Back before they had pagers, because obviously technology, has evolved. But we had the siren in town.
Yeah.
So
I remember that thing.
So the siren would be used for calls. It would be a long, steady siren. But when we grew up, the siren would go off at 12 o'clock to let everybody know it was lunch.
Yeah.
And 1 o'clock to let everybody know to go back to work, like at the Nestle plant.
That was a Nestle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the fire department siren is the one that set that. We set that off.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And it was on a timer. So yeah. But those are, and then they used it during the war for air raids or anything like that, but which we really didn't.
We didn't get to see any action out here in
for the most part,
San Joaquin County.
Yeah, there's a lot of history behind, and most military people transition into both law enforcement or in the fire service.
That was my plan. I went into the military in order to be law enforcement.
Yeah,
but then I got to be law enforcement in the military and decided that was a bad plan.
Well, see, I was in an MP unit, so I'm like, there's no way. There's 3 shifts, and I was like, no way. When I figured out that the fire service got to work 24-hour shifts per se, or 48 hours, I'm like, that's cool, and I get to work 10 days a month and get 20 days off. That's way better than being a police officer.
Yeah. Constantly on and off.
Yeah.
Swing shifts and all kinds of crazy hours and shit.
Yeah. So that was a transition. So it was a hard transition for 6 years to get into. And then I finally was able to work in my hometown I grew up in. And it was nice because I lived in town. My kids went to school in town. It was cool to drive up to their school functions and the fire engine, get out, be that cool dad, walk to their events, and stuff like that. So it was good. It was good for 20 years.
So 20 years comes and goes. What was your title? Or how far up did you make it? Or, what was your kind of career path in Ripon before you left? You entered as a volunteer, right?
I entered as a volunteer, became a volunteer lieutenant, and then got hired as a firefighter, and then got promoted to a captain fairly quicker than most people would, because we were a transition organization where people got hired and they moved on to bigger departments. So I became a captain, and then I became a battalion chief. And that's what that's the rank that I held before I left Ripon.
Okay.
In 2021.
So you leave Ripon in 2021, which is not that long ago.
No.
So something big, something you can't pass up for you to pull out after so many years. Where did you land? What could possibly pull you away from your hometown?
Well, I wanted to stay, but my ambition was to become a fire chief, and an opportunity came up for the French Camp Fire Department that also protects and contracts with the community of Mountain House. So I would always tell, because I also help teach at MJC and in Columbia College up in Sonora or in Columbia. And I always tell my students, don't go after a job if you're not going to take it. And I didn't really think that I was qualified, hadn't had a lot of experience as being a fire chief in that direction. But I put in for it because I was like, there's going to be some time before the opportunity arises in this organization. So I'm going to go test the water somewhere else. And they hired me.
Okay.
And I think a lot of it had to do because just my recruiting, the ability for me to be able to train and inspire and help firefighters get jobs, and they really were having a tough time trying to recruit firefighters and keep firefighters. So I just had to learn the chief position while I was able to do the things I knew how to do. And I still I try to stay in shape, not become a shape, but I still love being a firefighter. I still get out there and do what I can, pull hose, throw ladders.
Show the kids what's up.
Sometimes I encourage them to beat the 53-year-old man.
Yeah.
And some of these guys are like 20 years old.
All right.
Yeah.
And I think I try to intimidate them, but for the most part, they get me, respectfully. But I just want them to know I can still do this.
I can still do this shit.
Well, I remember that in the military, though. You'd always have some first sergeant come out and be like, all right, who's faster than me? Gee, here, 100-yard dash or whatever. He'd be 100-yard dash and he gets some old first sergeant or some gunny or something.
So funny story.
It was always cool when that shit happened.
When I was in the military, I was a guide arm. So I carried the company guide arm.
Yeah.
And when I went Soldier of the Year, I always had to carry the guide arm. So, but they would always make us run around the formation and just kind of,
Yeah. What is that?
Guide arm is kind of,
that has the stick with the flag on it.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Guide on.
Guide Arn.
Okay.
And so we would run around our platoon, which is not that bad, and then we'd run around the company. When we do battalion or brigade runs, my first sergeant was a really lanky runner.
Right.
And he's like, "You're coming with me." We have to go all the way around the formation. We're talking 6 companies in a battalion, and then we do a brigade. So we're talking like maybe 300-400 people that we'd have to run around, and then it would be a competition. Then people would want to outrun us, and I'm not a runner by any means.
Not the fastest.
I'm not
the strongest.
One of my least favorite parts of the military.
But I had when I had that guide arm in my hand, it was like a different person. I was like,
yeah.
And then after that run, I didn't do jack the rest of the day because there's nothing else I was doing. But
got my 15,000 steps in.
yeah. So those are just some of the things, and that's just the competition. That's just some of the things that carried over from the military into the fire service. Same thing.
Yeah.
You know, I transitioned everything I learned in the military over to the fire service, and tried to instill that in our firefighters as well as today.
So you get to be not just the chief, which means like you're handling like the administrative part of the whole station, right?
Correct.
You're doing the hiring, you're doing the training, you're managing all the things in there, and you're still going out on calls. You're still doing what you can there.
Yep.
But you've also said like the training to inspire, to motivate. What kind of like training or what kind of tasks or tips or tricks are you using to inspire? What are some of those like these? There's got to be some phrases or some things you keep in mind, right? That just you remind yourself of,
right?
Or right?
Well, I like when I teach a class, I'll like the first thing I'll do is like, you know, everybody in the class is they're taking firefighter 101. So I'm assuming they want to be fired. They're in it for the fire job. So I'll ask them the first day is, who here wants to be a firefighter? Raise your hand. And they all raise their hand. I'm like, all right, if you raised your hand already, you can't raise it again. Who here is going to be a firefighter? And they all look around and like, I said, that's the difference between wannabes and gonna-bees. So it's a mindset. If you think you want to be, I wanted to be a lot of things and never put the effort in my self-motivation in it. And I remember from Drill Sergeant Ray was like, they'd sing that song, you know, motivate me, you know, hey, Drill Sergeant, motivate. And he's like, you'll never hear me say that.
Right.
You came here with motivation. I'm here to inspire and encourage that motivation. And that's what I carried over into the fire services. I'm not here to motivate. I'm not hiring you to motivate you. That's what you should have brought into this. And I should have seen that when I hired you. I'm just here to encourage and inspire that.
Yep.
So that's one of the things that when anybody works in our organization, they know that. They're like, I'm not going to like pat you on the butt and on the head and say, hey, come on now. I know you can get here on time. You know, your alarm clock, you know, let's set a couple of them. No, that's not my job. It's my job. They're grown adults at that time. So that's one of the things that I encourage and inspire. And I think that's the one thing that I had brought over from the military. Other than, you know, just the love for the job.
Right.
You know,
what are some of the greatest things you've been able to do as a firefighter?
Well, just recently, as a firefighter, I mean, I've
EMT firefighter, just
I mean,
post-military.
You know, honestly, like now being, I've got to travel. On the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, I went back to New York and was there for the 10-year anniversary to represent our organization and just be there as a firefighter in the American Fire Service, which was amazing. A lot of tradition, and got to see like thousands and thousands and thousands of firefighters from all over the world and the United States there for that moment. It was very inspiring and encouraging. And being able to serve the people in my community, to be able to walk into a situation where people I grew up with are having a bad day and they see myself and other people from Ripon that are in the fire service, and it just helps make their day a little bit better, even though it's going to be a bad day. I mean, I was on the call where Rob's dad had a heart attack, and I was on that call, and it was for me to be there for him and his family that helped raise me when I was growing up. It was a blessing.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just those types of things, and it could be it cannot always be a blessing too, because you see these things. So I think those are the biggest things, in just being able to serve and protect the community that I grew up in. That it helped me as a kid. And we go on wildfire campaigns, and you get to be some iconic different types of events in the state, and be there to help mitigate as much as we can. So it's exciting.
Right.
My wife hates it though. She hates me going and being in danger.
Yeah.
Then I have to fib to her. I'm like, I'm so far away. I'm in my own Tahoe. And then she sees videos of me up on the fire line and stuff like that. So bless her heart.
Do you ever have days where you don't have to do anything? You get to go there and there's just no calls come in. You just get to hang out and watch movies the whole day?
Yeah, there's been days when I was on the line that we respond to those who call on us, and if we don't, we still have to clean the fire station, and there's things to do.
Always
there's always something to do, and it's crazy because young firefighters they didn't know what a pumice stone was, you know, and so I had to we had to show them that this is what we use to clean the toilets with, to get the ring around the toilet and stuff like that, and they don't know how to wash their clothes without just throwing it in there, and so
ruin it all.
Yeah, just there's different things. So there's always an opportunity for a learning moment, a teaching moment in the fire service. But to not do anything, probably never. But to have a calm day, absolutely.
Right.
Like on Veterans Day, we would typically, when I was on shift, it would be we were watching military movies all day long.
Yeah, that's
Band of Brothers, Pacific. We were soldiers. We would line them all up.
Yeah.
And we would just watch them. So that's kind of the nice thing about being in the fire service. There are those times when we can just chill out and hang out and talk about certain things and tell stories, because they were young and they just would. Is that true? Did they really do that? And so
they have a pool table and ping pong and all kinds of stuff in your firehouse.
No pool table, not in Ripon, but we had a tabletop ping pong table we put on our dining room table. But we would play a lot of games, like card games and different types of things. We typically sit around the kitchen table. My shift did, and we had a TV in the kitchen, and we would cook. We would play games, talk. We had really comfy chairs at the kitchen table. Some guys liked the big leather chairs, but we liked being at the kitchen table. We were really close together on our shift.
It's family-like.
Yeah, it's basically a third of our life is spent there with those people.
Yeah,
kind of like in the military too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's pull up some stats. Like, how many babies have you delivered?
5.
5 babies.
I've helped deliver, not just by myself.
Right.
We had twins, so basically 4 times, but one of
them gave you a 2.
Yeah, it was a twofer.
Yeah. And these were in the ambulance on the side of the road at the person's house, somewhere outside away from the hospital, obviously, right?
The most recent one was, I was in Ripon, and it was on the side of 99 southbound. Yeah.
You just pull over. They were already pulled over, right?
They were already pulled over. We drove up. I was in my battalion chief vehicle. I jump out. The ambulance was getting ready to position themselves in front of the vehicle, and I come up to the passenger side door. The door's open. The husband steps aside. The wife's got her feet up on top of the dashboard, and she's ready to go. I'm like, no, not here. Yeah. And she's like, it's happening. And I go, well, how many babies have you had? This is going to be my 5th. I go, it's happening.
It's happening.
It's happening. So I said, my name's Marty. I'm an EMT. I'm going to check, and baby's crowning, and we were able to get her transferred over to the gurney, got her in the back of the ambulance, and she had it before we got to the hospital.
That's because you just have a radio in your truck and you were just out driving around and you heard it?
No, they called 911. Oh. They were lost. They were trying to get to Kaiser in Manteca. They missed the exit. So we just took her to Kaiser Modesto instead. So, yeah.
It's not that far.
It's not that far. Not that far.
You're about in the middle right there.
Yeah,
South
about the middle.
Right?
I mean, we've had some where, they're like, oh, we got some time. And by the time we got her on the gurney and got her into the back of the ambulance and shut the doors, she was already having it. So these babies are going to come when they
want. They're on their way.
They're coming. So yeah, I've been fortunate to be able to be part of that with our crews.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
All right. So any, childhood memory, any cartoon, any TV show for kids has always shown like firemen saving the poor little kitty from the TV or from high up in the tree for a little old lady. Have you ever saved a kitten from a tree?
I've never personally, I've been on the ground when our guys are doing it, but it's not something we typically like to do, to be honest with you. A lot of it is, the public perception and, that cat's valuable to somebody and it's their pet. So we typically try to do the whole thing like, how long has it been up there? How old is it? Have you tried putting food at the bottom of the tree and waiting for it? And they're like, yeah. And I go, well, have you tried putting your dog in the house? Because it's not going to come down with dogs around here. We've had to get up in the tree with a ladder. It's not our favorite thing to do.
Right.
But it's our last resort.
Then you got to put on those big leather gloves or something too.
Well,
right?
yeah, we put on our structure jackets with our gloves on because those cats they don't
want to come out of the tree.
They don't. That's a pretty scary moment when you get a hold of one of those cats and it's like and it's going at it.
And you're at the top of a ladder.
Yeah. But we also had a guy fall off of a ladder at a small distance, and we that's when we started figuring it's not really healthy for us to go up there and get these cats unless the person's very persistent.
Right. So I've watched a lot of, Roadrunner cartoons and all this other stuff. So it just wants me, it kind of begs the question for me is, probably can't use that giant water cannon on top of the truck to get that. You just kind of spray the whole tree down. We joke about using our hoses to knock the cat out of the tree, especially if we're trying to, it's like I would say, just a little.
I've never seen a dead skeleton of a cat in a tree.
Yeah.
So they'll eventually come down.
Yes, they will.
They come down.
They'll eventually come down.
You've never had to pull a skeleton out of a tree?
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
And you like when someone locks their dog or kid in the car and we walk up with an axe and we're going to act like we're going to break the window. It just kind of make the moment a little humorous. Yeah. Unless it's 115 degrees.
Give them a story to tell.
Yeah, for sure.
So a couple of questions here that that I do have down here. What must a fireman or a soldier have to be the best they can be? What are some qualities or some qualities, not necessarily skills? What are some qualities that just excel people or people that just, when they have these, they seem to just excel a little bit more than the crowd?
I think like from transitioning from a soldier to a firefighter is, you have to be able to have selfless action. Like you don't always do for yourself, you do for others. Being courageous, being respectful, having integrity, having empathy. These are a lot of questions we ask during the interviews. What should a firefighter possess? And so these are some of the words that we're looking for, and not only just tell me the word, but give me an example of that. Obviously we want to be courageous. We want to have, we want to be confident, not arrogant, but we want to be confident. There's a difference between that. In today's world, it's really hard to be able to sit and we're hiring 5 new firefighters and we interviewed 38 individuals, and just to have a conversation with some young person trying to get into the fire service, you could tell the difference between a 20-year-old and a 35-year-old interviews. Yeah. Because a lot of these 35-year-olds at 20 wanted to be a firefighter, but they had family and responsibilities that just wasn't ready for them at that time. And so now they're doing it at 35, and they're some of the better applicants that we have because they have responsibility. They have a mortgage. They have a family. They're not going to not show up to work because someone at home is making sure they go to work. Right. Those types of things. So those are some of the qualities that we're looking for.
Okay.
Not that we're considering age when hiring.
No.
Yeah. We're not allowed to do that.
No. I honestly am looking, like I tell people, I can take a good person and help create a firefighter or teach them how to be a firefighter. I can't teach horrible person that has a bad attitude to be a good person.
Yeah. Right.
I don't have time.
I just had this same conversation with a restaurant owner the other day. He's like, I'll hire anyone. I can teach you how to run tables and be a service in a fine dining restaurant, but I can't teach you how to be a good person. I'm hoping your parents did that.
Yeah.
Hoping your parents did that.
Which is a hard attribute to find nowadays. I mean, they're out there, and some of the times, I'm like, maybe this kid just needs a chance, somebody to give them that opportunity. But do I have the time, and is this the right time to do this right now?
Yeah.
You know, because I have a broad spectrum of what I am responsible for. So.
Can you tell people are nervous when they come in to interview you?
Oh, yeah.
Because you're the head boss in charge.
Oh yeah.
You freak people out.
I don't know. Well, I mean, it could be anybody sitting in that chair. I usually just tell them, hey, unbutton your shirt, unbutton your jacket, relax. When they come do a Chiefs interview, they've already gone through all the others. Now I just want to know who they are.
Yeah.
So I just tell them, relax. I'm just going to ask you some questions. They're not anything's going to, like, I just want to know about you. So as long as you're you'll have the right answers.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we kind of already know who we want to hire. Now it's just kind of formality.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there something that there's something like really I'm just questionable about this guy? Or if they're ranked high in all these other categories, but then I see him, I can adjust that as well sometimes if I choose to with working with the personnel on the panel to go, I really think this person probably should be 6, not number 1.
Right.
And vice versa.
Right.
So
kind of adjust that a little bit.
yeah.
Okay. Fair.
Well, I was never the Marine of the Year, though. I never got to be.
I'm sure that's not an easy task.
That was not. That was never something that they put in front of me. Hey, Gallup, maybe you should try out for this. It was more like,
No.
yeah, no. I hung out with all the troublemakers, just like high school.
Me. I hung out with Esky.
Yeah, me too.
That's going to do it for us tonight, folks. I want to thank you guys for tuning in and hanging out with us. Always a good time. Appreciate you guys. Marty, thank you for jumping in again. I appreciate you and your service. Greatly appreciate it. I love our military, so thank you for that. Greg, always a pleasure having you as a friend, as a co-host, and your service too. I love our military, so I'm always a big fan. So thank you guys for tuning in. Shout out to all of our military personnel out there across the world. So our military people across the world. Love you guys, and salute to you guys. Peace out, everybody.
Date.
I want a fighter pilot. Do you know anybody who's a fighter pilot? Can you get a hold of a fighter pilot?
I know a helicopter pilot, Eric Weaver.
Eric Weaver's a helicopter pilot.
In the Navy. But a fighter pilot.